these idiots in the background. I'm going to stop them from pulling faces at me. Let's just bring them in. That is Boldo's Tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times, because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikavalu in the bottom, and he hasn't been there since half of last year, our pyramid would have fallen.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece, and it's fallen over.
Oh, Maloney is still intercept. Away goes James Maloney. They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans. Maloney is there. Healy. It's Healy has scored on his departure day. Mitch Healy gets a try. The crowd have gone absolutely bereft.
In amongst all of that, Lats had an awesome story about how awesome this FInucane guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, FInucane, how good is he? And everyone's like,
I don't even know who FInucane is. I just assumed that FInucane was the same guy as FInucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's FInucane?
Wow.
This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the team.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the card going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it was just Boldo just playing along. But anyway.
Peachy, great ball to Campbell. He's away.
Campbell to the 30-metre line. Now, Colin Best heading for the corner. Gets it back on the inside. Graham, they're over. Nick Graham has scored. 4 minutes into the game. And it's away. Here they are. Pryor. Can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling, where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's the go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franco, what do you got?
Mate, can I rebuttal that, or am I giving it a different answer?
Go for it. Enough arguments on this podcast. Come on.
You're going to throw out cans and they're going to play out of cans.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever.
Townsend now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen, field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Corabetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Corabetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14-12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the E.T. Stan Podcast.
Dale FInucane to retire effectively
effective immediately rather, and the Sharks have a new 5-8 heading into round 8. Goodness, you go to sleep, you wake up to like 1,000 text messages from your ET stand buddies, and then you work out you haven't also got the slide template on the side. That is the lineup for today's show. Thank you for joining us. A bit happening if you're a Sharks fan, so excuse me for the fact that we've had to change the lineup of this show 2 or 3 times. Paul Latz and his social updates. Goodness, it was looking so good 12 hours ago. Oh God. All right, welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let our talking do the football. Please do hit the like and subscribe button to get notified of all of our videos on either YouTube or Facebook. And for those listening on Spotify, hello again. Please do get involved in the comments of the show. The debrief episode last week following the Cowboys win went absolutely off with the comments, which was a hell of a lot of fun. So do get in the comments and say g'day. It's a fun way to interact with the show and give us a hard time. We have got a lot happening on this show tonight, including the panel reflecting on the short Sharks career of Dale FInucane and his legacy on the game of rugby league. We're going to preview the match against the Raiders and the team that was named, including the new 5-8. The panel will give their view on if the Sharks could keep this winning form going. We all had notes on how pleasantly surprised we were and how we all thought that was going to keep going. Is that going to happen or not? Latz gives us his social roundup. We're going to do. I've got a top 5. We've got a top 5 all-time great Sharks wins at home. Kelly takes us around the grounds. There's a lot happening on this show. And we will determine who is the number 1 contender for the ET Stand trivia title to take on the returning Matty Williams in a couple of weeks. Boys, that's a lot. Before we get started, I'll just say great job on the debrief. From my perspective, the Cowboys never really looked in it. Third try put them away. We were singing the song at 24-0. I thought an absolutely brilliant display from Stone Street. I am going to call it the goal kick of Hines is proving a real heartbreaker for opposition players, fans, and coaches. A high completion rate, limited errors, brilliant Fitzgibbon. Sorry, should I say SJD pleasing football. SJD, since he's just outed himself as the coach of the Sharks, it's been going so well for us. And what is encouraging for me is the depth off the bench and how we're only asking Tommy for 24 minutes, the final boss Talakai for 27, and Ueli 23 minutes. We've got those impact players coming off the bench, not getting a lot of injuries, and Iro did make a lot of run meters. But that's my take on the Cowboys match, and I'll say you 3 boys on the debrief were sensational. So if you want to relive the euphoria of that, go back and check that out. I'm not sure I've got a job on the debrief anymore, but we'll see how we go. But the news of the day is obviously the retirement of Cam McInnes.
You wish, Moldo. You wish.
Hello, fellas. Sorry, it's a long diatribe for me. I missed the last episode. I'm feeling like I kind of miss out. Here we go. And Jake's just come through and says, yep, Cronulla supporters all know the feeling. Yes, we do, Jakey. Cronullafied. Personified. All right, let's get into it. Do we? Oh wait, SJD. I'm not allowed to bet on 30 plus on my team. Yeah, well, fair enough. Sorry, SJD. Well, maybe that's why you've got the account set up, Fitzy, SJD, because that helps you allows you to do the betting. All right, we'll just hit pause on the great instrumental, and we'll move us along. FInucane retires at a press conference today. Shark 549. Dale FInucane announced his retirement for the game of NRL, effective immediately, stemming from complications from a range of concussions. He is a hard-nosed, hard nut player. He did feature quite prominently when we talked about the toughest Sharks ever. A difficult decision, and one that I'm sure he didn't take lightly. FInucane came into a club at a time we had some retiring hardmen and really filled a void left for us by Galen Lewis and Graham moving on. He was one of the more revered Storm players from that rival team from 2016 and 17. And so we'll get into that, and I'll start with you, Latz, the social reactions to Dale FInucane calling it quits. He gets his own Latz social segment.
There you go, mate. Mate, it is deserved. There's been huge praise and congratulations around the whole league, and not just in Shark socials, for the great man in announcing his medical retirement, effective immediately today after playing 251 NRL games. He's one of the most respected and respectful players to have laced up a boot. A lot of happiness in the socials about him staying with the club moving forward in some capacity, which that's yet to be announced what that will be. I love this. He's a great leader, perfect role model to have around the playing group and for the young blokes of the club. So thank you, Dale, for your service to the club. Congratulations. Enjoy your playing retirement. All the best going forward, and maybe just don't ditch the mouthguard just yet. We may need to slot you in at 6 sometime in the not too distant future.
Oh, goodness. What a worry. What a worry. Franco, what do you make of FInucane's contribution to the Sharks?
Oh, look, I think it was pretty well accepted that when he signed for the Sharks, that it was a great coup for the club to bring him, his professionalism. I don't know. It was never really said out loud, but it was almost a bit of a package deal with Nico, the two Storm guys, friends, sort of going, "What do you reckon? Do we take this journey to the Sharks?" And so we landed both of them, and he was a really good player, but also to use a cliche, a really good club man. He sort of led the way in preparation. He led the way in professionalism. Really showed what is a young team, sort of how to prepare, how to take the game seriously. It's a shame he didn't get over the line for us, didn't score a meat pie for the Sharkies. So that's a bit of a, it would have been nice to have got him over the line for us. But, he did well. The first season played out of his skin, had a really great season, didn't end as well as everyone was expecting. There was rumours that he was nursing some rib injuries or sternum injuries. And with my recent episode of cracked ribs, I am fully supportive of how tough he is taking the field, even with that going on, and still trying his hardest for the club. So, mate, he was great. Hopefully he does stick around the club in some capacity. I'm not sure where that would be. I know we were talking about him on the debrief episode.
He's going to run the bar from the last 20 minutes of every match, isn't he, Chris?
Be better. I need somebody to do it.
Chris Kelly.
Yeah, I think he's probably got too high a standing to be that 18th man. I think he had to have been in the team, or, as has happened, sort of retire. It's sad. It's a shame. And obviously, if you saw the press conference and heard him speak, he doesn't want to let the game go yet. I think he still thinks he has more to give, and probably does, to be fair. So it's sad to see him leave, but hopefully he can provide that to the game through other means, whether it's in coaching staff or education, welfare, something along those lines. Hopefully he's not lost to the game.
Mr. Kelly, how do you make of FInucane's legacy around the league and his time with Canterbury and the Storm?
The question is, Bolter, did you think it was Finau or FInucane retiring today? So,
well, I'm still trying to work it out, actually, but
Yeah. I'm more shocked that Lat's actually made mention of it to the universe.
Oh, this is classic category too.
Retiring, and then all of a sudden, bang, we get news today. These medical. So when my phone started to light up and people started to mention it, I was like, yeah, we already talked about it. I knew this was coming.
I reckon Dale was watching on Sunday night, and I reckon he got the idea.
It was funny. We're all sitting there trying to decide where he's going to fit into the pack over the next couple of weeks. I back what Franco said, like it was one of those signings that sort of sparked maybe a fall towards us. I know the Tigers offered him a lot more money to go there. I know we've had discussions in private about the sort of salary and where he was going. It finishes on 251 NRL games. I kind of get to that thinking of his contract. He had another 2 years, and me and Franco sort of talk about celebratory games. He could have made the 300 for Cronulla. We would have had another player playing 300 games. Would have been great to sort of tip his cap to that. I saw a talk with him tonight on another show that starts at 6:30 on a Fox Sports channel that no one likes to mention. And he was just saying that he went and actually sought a bit of advice and doctor's advice and let them decide to take it out of his hands. And Fitzy was good enough to go around and meet him and his wife and to say, look, if that's the decision, that's the decision. It's no pressure from us. It's you got to look after yourself. So, it's sad to see him go. Quite a stalwart of the NRL and things like that. I'd like to see him hang around and sort of help our forwards for the next year or two. But it's good to see that the league sort of takes these things seriously now with concussion, that he gets medically retired and also sort of frees up a bit of salary cap space. So Dale gets looked after, we get looked after, and happy days. So we'll go from there.
That's right. The medical retirement means it comes off the cap, Anthony Watmow style.
Yeah, correct. So big boost.
Big boost.
In
for
saying
us.
that,
It
that
means
was
we
a bit
can-
of a front-loaded contract too, wasn't it? So it's a bit trimmer at the back end, but I guess any
Well, it
cap
just means we can
relief
go
is
give Rudolph or Hamlin Ueli a bit more money this year and free up some money for
Jack
next year.
Williams. We talked about Jack Williams in the debrief. You know,
There you go.
it kind of keeps him around. There's the money we can get to keep him around.
Well, do we get the good Jack Williams or the bad Jack Williams? Which one?
Well, at the moment, we're getting the great Jack Williams at the moment.
Fair enough. All right. Well, anything else on Dale FInucane before I transition this into talking about the excellent Sharks form?
It does raise an interesting question, medically retiring on concussion standards, because it's a very difficult thing to disprove, especially if you've had a few head knocks. The medical retirement avenue was sort of reserved for new injuries that have occurred since signing your last contract. You mentioned Watmow. It's an interesting thing to now be able to utilize concussions because it is a very sensitive topic, and I can see clubs maybe abusing that in the future.
Well, if there's a rule in rugby league, the clubs will always look at it and try and find a way to use it. And we'll say, g'day to our main man, Harley. Sharkies will win and beat the Raiders. We are all going to miss Dale FInucane. Is the greatest player. Geez, Harley, you're putting Dale FInucane a bit high on your Sharks' greatest players list, but okay. Dale FInucane, number one.
top of his tiers, mate.
Top of the
Harley's tiers.
Should be the top of the tiers. All right, well, let's moving into the next segment now. The Sharks, we had this originally landed out as the Sharks film, can it continue? And we had Dale FInucane coming in the wings, coming back. We had the massive win over the Cowboys. We had a halves pairing that was looking pretty strong. Can the Sharks keep this form going? I'm going to start with you, Lats. Because given that you are the Messiah and can tell us what's going to happen, and it told us that FInucane was about to retire 2 weeks ago, and you had a great betting week on the weekend, from what I understand.
Mate,
yeah, we know, Chris. We know you're in a syndicate. You let Lats do all the betting. It's fine. And that's what happens to the Sharks form moving forward from here.
Oh, look, mate. I guess we're lucky. We've got a couple of easy, winnable games. Well, not easy, but winnable games coming up over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, Atkinson can build a little bit of a combination there with Nico going into those sort of bigger games the following weeks in Melbourne, Penrith, and the Roosters. I think we can. I think we're pretty good across the park. Nico's still that flashy game manager. I think he can sort of nurse Atkinson into the role. I do think it puts a lot more pressure on Nico, though. I think he'll feel he'll have to, take on a bit more in regards to game management and that. And possibly I'm assuming Nico goes co-captain now that we don't have Dale or for when Cam's off. So there's a bit more pressure there too. But I think we can go on with it. We've got the big guys on the bench, the forwards, paving the way for us and going up the middle and making space for the halves to do their stuff. And I think we can nurse Atkinson into it nicely, and I think we can go on with it.
So we're on a streak. You can't say streak.
Nah. But,
Bruce Kelly, are we on a streak?
Hell yes. Well, I told you, we're going to be top two all season. I said it 2 days ago. Plug and play. We've got players everywhere can fill in. Yeah, like all clubs, we're skinny in reserve halves, so it's a little bit hard to say. But I've always been a big fan of Atkinson. I think he's a better half than he is a fullback. I'm sure the Raiders and old mate Ricky's going to run a lot of traffic towards him, but I'm not too concerned. I said that I think we've got a really good system going at the moment. Atkinson's been 18th man for quite a while now, so he's been sort of riding the bench, watching what's going on. We've got players coming back on deck. It's still all rosy, guys. It's all good.
And Jake's not wrong. We do have the cheat code, the final boss,
Final
called
boss.
Talakai, who I thought could have been named at 5'8", just running. Why not?
Should have been 6.
Should have been 6. Well, Paul Gallen was at 5'8" once, wasn't he? Went a halfback with Greg Bird, I think. I think Greg Bird was halfback and Paul Gallen was 5'8". All right, Franco, are you going to put these guys in their place? Or are you going to just jump on this bandwagon of Sharks are never going to lose. Undefeated season except for the West Tigers coming up here.
Can it continue? How long are we saying can it continue for?
How many weeks do we lose, Franco?
It's interesting because there's a lot we can talk about here that's going to bleed into the preview, but we're certainly having a different conversation now than we were 24 hours ago. I do think it can continue, but it won't be as dominant and it won't be as definitive as what we're seeing at the moment. We're probably going to have a little bit of a feeling out period where Brails needs to learn to trust Atkinson's calls, whether he goes to Nico all the time, whether Atkinson gets the ball when he sees something, whether the guys trust running off his lines. We also have the scenario where Atkinson's very much a running half. He's very nippy, very zippy, plays what he sees. He's not that controlling half that we know that Braden Trindle is. So it's going to be sort of interesting to have those two running halves. But as Kelly said, he's been in the team now for a couple of years. He knows the structure. They know him. It should be plug and play. And, hey, I'm on the glass half full train. Let's go.
All right, well, let me go get my empty glass from down here. Look, the thing is in the NRL, to win the NRL Premiership, you need an absolutely fit team with no gaps. We saw it with the Sharks versus the Storm. The difference was Blake Green was at 5'8" instead of Cameron Munster, and that was because Billy Slater was injured. If Billy Slater plays, the pass out to the left goes just that little bit quicker, and I think the Storm score on the Sharks. We have the problem now. We're missing our first choice 5'8". They have not trained together, Hines and Atkinson. To building on Franco's point, Brayley will need to learn to understand. It's probably better that it happens earlier rather than later. But reflecting on it, I think we're building towards a 2025 premiership push. I think that is the year when we'll actually be stronger because we'll have Fanua Blake. Well, the forwards will be a little bit stronger. I don't expect to see much regression from our guys at the moment. So can it keep going? I'm going to say yes. We will beat the Raiders. We'll probably beat the Storm in Melbourne. God, that's always difficult. So I think that's not going to be easy the week after that. But yeah, I think let's not get too excited. Let's not book our grand final tickets just yet. We don't have to call Dane Wheeler and get on the ticket list. I think we can just maybe settle down a little bit. All right, let's move on. Do you agree with us in the comments? Let us know if you think the Sharks form can continue. I have a feeling this pro Sharks crowd might come out and say, well, Sharks, of course, we're going to go win. All righty, let's move on. Slats and the socials.
All righty, mate.
Let me just bring up your little.
I don't for my first one, mate. I don't have an image, so you can keep the images off. I'll kick this one off, mate.
Yes.
There's a lot of angry and a lot of frustrated fans in the socials these last few hours, given the unfortunate news around Braden. Sharks released a media statement earlier. Here's what they had to say. Sharks NRL squad member Braden Trindle failed initial roadside alcohol and illicit drugs test early on Monday morning. The club has since followed the appropriate protocols with the players' contract and CBA and continues to work with the NRL Integrity Unit. With the club, player and his management agreeing it is in Braden's best interest to not participate in games or to train for the short term, more importantly, to attend to his welfare and health issues. Trindle reported the result of the roadside test immediately to Sharks management, who in turn informed the NRL Integrity Unit. The matter has been referred for a court appearance in May where Trindle will face the allegations and charges levelled against him, noting that a second sample of the illicit drugs test is yet to be confirmed. The Sharks treat these issues extremely seriously. However, they are providing Trindle with the necessary welfare support. Until more information is available, the club will make no further comment. And that's what the club had to say. Look, it's a frustrating situation for being a fan, but in saying that, it provides Atkinson with that sort of shot to prove himself alongside Nico at top level. It's going to be tough changing up the Haas combination a few weeks out from playing those big teams. It puts the pressure on Nico. However, it could be a blessing in disguise as well. We might find that and rediscover that sort of slickness that we lost to that left side when we release Moylan. Who knows? But watch this space and we'll see what happens there. Okay.
The Sharks have handled this one. Hold on, before we move on, I think the Sharks have handled this one quite well.
Yes.
That was the only decision that could be made. to unfortunately stand Braden Trindle down and give him the chance to reflect on what's just happened and let that play out. And look, let's just see what happens with Atkinson. Franco?
I suppose it's worth mentioning, anyone listening or watching in isolation and unawares, bit of context for what we were talking about in the Sharks form. The reason why we're a little bit hesitant and talking about Atkinson is because of what Lats has just mentioned. We haven't done the Raiders preview yet, so someone in a bubble might not realise that that Tricky's not playing. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, so we'll let the process do its thing. I'd obviously like to see him back sooner or later. They have mentioned health concerns in that press release that you read out, Lats. Whether that's just for support reasons or if there's other things going on behind the scenes, but we obviously wish him all the best. But I agree with Boldo that we've handled it well. And, assuming it's only a couple of weeks, maybe this, as you said, gives Atkinson a chance to build up his combinations and build our depth.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the actual socials.
All righty,
shall we? All right. What's this first one?
We're going to kick off with some opposition socials, mate, from the weekend to take the heat off us for a minute.
All right, Who are we talking about?
Talking about Cowboys fans are absolutely seething. We're talking about Todd Kelly, is it, or Chris Payton? I'm not too sure, but Cowboys fans are absolutely seething at their team's performance over the last couple of rounds. You've been working out. Especially Sunday's game against the Mighty Sharks. Several fans stating Todd Payton has lost the dressing room, and many of them calling for his sacking. Believe it or not. It's only round 8, lads. A lot of fans calling out their small forward pack compared to other teams and their aging forwards, and also the poor use of their bench. I, however, think Todd will be safe given the Cowboys' strong start over the first 6 rounds this season. But it's just interesting to watch the pressure shift on coaches as the season progresses. We're not hearing too much about Demetrio at the moment. I noticed he announced Cook being back this week. But fans calling for his head this early after them having a pretty solid start to the season, I think it's pretty rough.
I'd be calling for it as well.
Everyone wants that head. Look at it.
That's what I've heard. It's what I've heard.
We just talk about how perfectly round Chris Kelly's head is.
I actually cut that out with the egg tool from Snapchat. I'm not lying.
This is the reel of the week for sure.
Stitch up.
Fair enough. All right, on to the next one.
Moving on. Back to more important things, us. Until lunchtime today, it was all about Cale Iro across the Sharks socials and how he's developed into a real first-grade level centre over the last few weeks. His workload on Sunday was immense. He's really putting his stamp on that centre position. I think he was over 212 metres or something, run metres with no line breaks. I think he had 5 tackle breaks, but that's just pure hard work. There's been a lot of noise in the socials for Fitzy to keep him at centre and for Talakai to remain on the bench in that impact role. And that says a lot given Talakai's strong start to the season over at centre over the first few rounds. So Fitzy has a bit of a selection headache around that situation also. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there going forward and in those bigger games.
Worth mentioning, guys, that he is unsigned, I believe, off contract. So a bit more of a selection headache for Fitzy. It's a retention headache.
Yep.
FInucane money.
There you go. FInucane money. Sorry, Jack. Sam Stonestreet. A lot of love around for young Sam Stonestreet with that outstanding debut performance over the weekend. He's never shied away from anything in that match. He went looking for work all game, and how good and fitting was that try he scored down in that southwestern corner in front of all his friends and family, launching into the crowd. As Chris said, he was absolutely blowing at the when he came back from that. I think he over-celebrated there. But, geez, we've got some great young talent waiting in the wings down there at Sharks. It's exciting to see just to have that depth there. And they're all stepping in and doing their job, just like a well-oiled machine. So hopefully Atkinson does the same thing at 6. And finally, mate, Harold Matts and Tarsha Gale. Unfortunately, both the Sharks, Harold Matts and Tarsha Gale teams both went down in the prelims over the weekend. Harold Matts lads lost in a close one, going down 8-6 to Western Suburbs, whilst the Tarsha Gale team had a quite convincing loss at the hands of the undefeated Illawarra Steelers, 26-4. Great effort to both these teams. Have done the patch very proud and up. That's it for the socials, kids.
Nice work, lads.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, that was just an excellent update, really, isn't it? Just so good you doing that social roundup. It's basically using social media. Why would you watch NRL on Fox? Sorry, Braith and Esther. And
just jump on that Stone Street debut as well. One of our favourite guys and his favourite player, and Luke Cavell, sent him a little tribute video just before he kicked off on the weekend. So that kind of pumped him up. And yeah, so it's good to see that Cavell's still involved in the club and send a little shout out to him. So
I hear there's a prominent ET Stand host who wants Cavell to be the leaping coach. I believe he's still rabbiting on about that from 10 years ago. It's like he's over there. Hold on, over there.
Feel like I'm on the bloody Brady bunch.
That's right.
Whoever had that idea is a genius.
That's a good idea. All right, the Sharks take on fellow top 8 team, the Raiders, in Canberra on Sunday. Last start losers, the Raiders. And they were last start losers, weren't they? Got that right this week. I swear one of you guys changed my notes last week. Last start losers, the Raiders will be licking their wounds from that epic comeback the Sharks pulled off a few weeks ago. The Raiders are certainly going to be a different proposition at home, having not lost a match there this season. The team list was named, and we'll bring that up and switch to this view so that our man on the ground, Mr. Kelly, can take us through the Sharks team. It was named by Craig Fitzgibbon earlier today.
Yeah, well, round 8 team is obviously. So I was waiting for the music.
Are we?
Well, this close to charge and having the exact team that we had last week, but the problem is, obviously, we had to replace our number 6 in Triggy Trindle. So Daniel Atkinson is our plug and play player coming from the 18th man back into the starting side. Other than that, Katoa comes back in for Stone Street, and no other changes. We keep Williams, Talakai, Rudolph, and Hamin as our number 17 on the bench.
All right, that's a pretty good looking team. What do we make of that? Franco?
I mean, it's
the obvious picks.
It's a pretty strong team with what we've got available to us. The call out there, which we've mentioned on several occasions now, is the dummy half, the number 6 there, Atkinson. A couple of options there would have been Peru or Dykes, but really Atkinson, I think, is the guy that's sort of probably next man up. I think maybe people forget a couple of pre-season challenges ago when he basically lit up one game. Absolutely dominated, both in fullback and in the halves, where people who maybe didn't know much about him saw him for the first time and just sort of thought, wow, look at this depth, look how good we've got it. Maybe he can push his way into the team now. What do we do with this great player? So I guess just hold on to that for a bit of faith and let's see what he can do, given the chance.
Let's have a look quickly at the Raiders team to take on the Sharks. Does anyone want to volunteer for being the person who reads out?
You're always great at these. You're great at these, Valdo. You're great at these.
All right, let's give you a more subdued music.
Have you got the Raiders Green Machine song going or what?
Hold on.
He's got the Viking. He's got the Viking club.
We're bad and mean.
Michael Ennis.
Green Machine. Oh goodness. All right, take us through the Raiders team, Chris Kelly.
We've got number 1, the young 18-year-old and Chevy Stewart playing his 3rd game. Sheila Timoko, Sebastian Chris, and me and Latz's favourite Xavier Savage. Ethan Strain stays in the 6, and KO Weeks comes in at 7 to replace Jamal Fogarty. Papali'i, Levi, Tapane, Young, Sagasau goes to number 12, and Morgan Smithy's at 13. Starling, Mariota, Mooney, and Sulu in the bench, and our old friend in Ricky Hewitt as the coach.
What do we make of that Raiders team? Well, firstly, Chris Kelly made the call, but he had no typos in his written up team list this week. But I have noticed one. Trey. Capital Trey.
Trey.
What sort of name is Trey anyway?
Trey Mooney. Yeah, well, see, this team went up to Brisbane last week and absolutely got handed to themselves in the wet. They lost Fogarty. Like Jake's just saying, one thing in our favour, they've also lost Foggy, so they're down a half. So he's out for about 3 to 4 months with a torn big Papa Pump bicep. So he's out for a little bit. But Chevy Stewart's a young 18-year-old. He was obviously a Sharks junior that we were discussing about whether we'll miss him or not. He had a really good game against the lowly Titans down in Canberra. But then this week up in the wet against Brisbane, they absolutely bombed the hell out of the poor kid, and he got smacked from pillar to post. He gave up a couple of tries from drops. He decided to run one straight, and the two forwards absolutely cleaned him up. So he had a tough run. They were then 26-0 at halftime, so they had a bit of a bad start. So, yeah, a few things going in our favour in that lineup because if you recall, a couple of weeks ago we played the Raiders at Sharks, and they were up 18-0 early on, and we were a bit of Barney rubble, and all of a sudden the Sharks poured it back on. So I'm hoping we do the same. We do love playing down in Canberra down there, so I'm sure Atkinson will see a bit of traffic coming towards him with that giant Canberra Raiders pack, but I'm sure we'll get the job done.
Latz has taken himself out of the show.
I don't know what happened there, mate.
He's now resumed top position, is now the host. What are we doing next, Latz?
Welcome to the show, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, mate. They've got a pretty strong backline, Canberra, don't they? Look at those names like Sebastian Chris, Timoko, Schiller. They're all on fire. Chevy Stewart
is good.
He's on fire. He's scoring at least a try every game. Chevy Stewart, didn't they pepper him with the high ball last week? And he gave it to him. So he'll be up for a big one this week. But I think we win this one. I think we get a bit of a scare. I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as last week. Maybe it's karma for celebrating Fogarty's exclusion for Canberra with what happened today. But with us down now, one of our regular halves, I guess it'll be a bit more even. I think Hazelden bags another try with that fancy footwork. And I'm looking for a big game from Blake Brayley, given Trindle's exclusion. I think we might see a few more kicks from him from dummy half this week, and he might take on a bit more of a role too.
You're tipping the Sharks, Latz?
Yeah, mate, tipping the Sharks.
It's interesting, Latz. You mentioned, Fogarty out, and they've got a new half in Weeks. He's a bit the same as Atkinson as well, because he's a bit of a journeyman, sort of utility fullback half player. He played 12 games for the Sea Eagles before making the jump to the Raiders for this to be his debut game. So it's almost a like-for-like replacement on both teams. So you're right, it is pretty even. The one I think I'd call out is Ethan Strange. He's had a great start to his career. Just a young kid come in, and he's lightning quick. He's got a good step on him himself, so he's probably one to watch out for as well.
Franco, tip.
Let's go, Sharkies.
There we go.
Well. All right, Chris, what are you expecting from the Raiders?
Yeah, probably the normal sort of Ricky Stewart sort of style down there in Canberra. We're going to go have a bit of an arm wrestle and things like that. But like I said, our record's been pretty good down there lately. They had it in control against the Titans last week. They probably should have, or the week before at home, they probably should have lost that game at a non-controversial offside penalty. Went on to win on an Ethan Strange break with, I think 50 seconds left to go. Made a 60-metre break and then got in field goal range and kicked a big field goal to escape against the Titans. Their bench just doesn't stack up to ours. The Marcus Mariota in 15 really sort of is a big human, but I just think the rest of the guys just don't stack up. I think our attack's just a little bit better and probably our defence. They're always a big pack, but I just look at our bench. We've got Williams, Talakai, Rudolph,
great looking bench.
It's a great looking bench. So I say Sharks, small win, 1-12 easily, but it's gonna be one of those sort of rough and tumble sort of games. Canberra's been in every single game up to their eyeballs, but they're missing a little bit this season. They're a bit like the Cowboys, where they're just not finishing sort of things. Maybe even like the Bulldogs, where they go out with a bit of fortitude, but just not getting over the line. So I think, we'll be in the contest, but I just think we've got better class at the moment.
It's a Chris Kelly tip of the Raiders. I can confirm that the Sharks rather. I can confirm that Williams has also tip the Sharks, which means that with me also tipping the Sharks, I'm going to stay in the lead of the ET stand tipping comp.
Maybe we need to get you to tip first next week.
Yeah, you're not tipping last at all for a reason, are you?
No, I was tipping the Sharks anyway. How
Classic
could you not tip the
Boldo.
Sharks? How can you not tip the Sharks against the? I just think we're in too good a form, and I think they'll actually be buoyed by the results this week. I don't think they'll miss a beat this week with Daniel Atkinson, but with a bit of tape on him, they might find a way of kind of sorting him out. Other teams.
Geez, I hope we win controversially because I just want to see.
Oh, that's what I said. That's what I said. We just pray for something controversial for Ricky to lose his shit in the press conference. Just
and even if
pray
it's
for
not,
something-
you'll still lose his shit in the press conference. It's Ricky.
It's the best.
Well,
Oh, I love it. I love it. What about him and Des going at it a few weeks back? I love it.
all right, fair enough. All right, well, look, anyone in the comments want to get your tip in and give us your view on what you think's going to happen in the Sharks versus the Raiders match. I do worry that we did have that comeback a few weeks ago, and they are going to be better against us. SJD's feeling an 8-tackle try. Goodness, how good was that?
Oh, please. Please. Please.
How good would an 8-tackle try be? I don't hate Ricky Stewart as much as everyone else seems to hate Ricky Stewart.
I just love watching him whinge.
I think I dislike, in terms of former Sharks coaches, I dislike Chris Anderson far more than Ricky Stewart, but there's not much in it. What do you mean, Chris? What are you giving me that face for?
Because he's the current coach of the mighty Mullumbimby Giants. He's the current A-grade coach up there. So that's just blasphemy to me. You said the Raiders started hot last time, but they did have Rapana and Fogarty in that team. So they have lost a little bit. But, yeah, Jake's right. Like, Chevy Stewart was in our system, so he knows what's going on. Ricky obviously knows how to get the team up. But, yeah, it smells a bit trappy, but I just think we've got a bit more class.
All right. Well, hopefully that's what happens. Munro's come in with a Sharks 18 plus
from Europe.
Munro. All right, fair enough.
We can only hope, Munro. We can only hope. That's all we ever want to see. I'm convinced that Ricky Stewart's press conference gets more ratings than the actual Raiders games. I reckon everyone just tunes into the last 5 minutes and just waits for the press conference. But
and I want to hear this story. Can you tell us about Ricky Stewart telling your brother to F off at the Normandy?
I think that's the only thing. I think that's the only thing that Tim can remember from that night. Like, I'm pretty sure he left without a shirt and shoes that night. So
I think there were probably about 45 people that told Tim to F off that night, I reckon.
Yeah. I think he told himself too. So if you ever remember that old prank that Lats talked about before on the footy show with the guy got up annoying Fatty Vorton, that was Tim Kelly the night the Normandy. We just wouldn't leave him alone. So
yeah, fair enough. I'm sure Ricky Stewart had it coming. There we go. Tim Kelly's just coming through with laughing about it. Well, shout out to you, Tim. At least the good thing about you, Tim, is you've still got your hair, don't you? So let's bring it back to some seriousness. Thank you to the coach SJD, for bringing it back to us a little bit seriousness. Yeah, you're right, SJD. If they are going to throw a lot at Atkinson in defence, if he's on, I think we win. So hopefully we have gotten over if he's more Braden Trindle in defence and less Matt Moylan. All right, moving on. Look, we saw last week one of the great Sharks home wins, didn't we? Really? So there have been some massive Sharks home wins over the years, and we are going to take you through some of those, with the first at Endeavour Field win being a win over the Panthers. Williams, go look it up and audit me if you like. It was an 11-8 win, just in case you want to check. All through to some large, actually, if you go through looking at the largest ever victories, we've had a lot of large victories over the Panthers. We had a couple of 46-0 wins over these. So what we've tried to do is compile a list of the top 5 Sharks wins at home ever. And I'm going to try and take you through a history lesson, which normally says with Matty Williams, but it's not with Matty Williams because I'm doing
We need him back. We need him back.
So we do need him back. The boys
He's fudged the numbers, I reckon.
The boys said we can't do this segment without Matty Williams. And I say, well, actually, we can. So this is greatest ever Sharks home victories, history lesson with Boldo as we go through it. Let's see. Who did I say first? Well, 1988, Sharks home match. Sharks beat the Raiders 32-10. The high-flying second-place 1988 Sharks welcomed the star-studded yet slightly depleted Raiders team to Caltex Field. Ricky Stewart actually played 5'8" this day. with Ivan Henjak in the halves because Mal Meninga was injured and they moved Laurie Daly into the centres. They were also missing Kevin Walters, who was kind of their Mr. Fix-It man, but not quite in the team. The Sharks team of 1988 was full of legends. Docking, Eddinghausen, McGaw, Alan Wilson, Gavin Miller, Speechley, Porter, Danny Lee put their foot down on this day, declaring their contention for the 1988 season, which tries to E.T. Russell, Speechley, and Wilson. Wilson kicked 6 from 7, but most notably on this day, a young David Balderman signed up to being a Sharks fan in 1988. The 1988 team really was underrated and unlucky to go out in the way that did. It was a great day at Shark Park. I'm sure you boys all remember that one fondly.
I actually do, mate. I actually got picked out of the crowd and was presented with a signed Sharks ball, which my nephew has at the moment, which I've showed you boys before, by Mal Meninga at half time. So it's amazing. It's all the signatures are still intact from that team that year, and that was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good team.
Leather steeded.
Is it worth mentioning that the picture is a game of Manly versus Canberra?
Well, it's probably worth.
This is what happens when Williams doesn't do the history lesson.
Oh, it's actually worth calling out that when Williams does the history lesson, he takes images that we're not allowed to have and might get us into trouble. It might cause me a fine, lad. So this image we're allowed to have, and that is the great Peter Jackson, who switched from the Broncos to Canberra. From Canberra to the Broncos a little bit later. Actually, hold on, he was in the team. Yeah, no, he was in the team. So
Mate, you weren't in charge of putting David Peachy on the card and rocked up with Richard Barnett by any chance, were you?
I wasn't in charge.
I'd love to send that picture to Paul Kent tonight. Was ranting and raving about tackling techniques, about going on about FInucane and concussions, because Peter Jackson is dead set leg lifting in that photo, and the Manly player is still tackling around. He's still tackling around the wrong position to cop a stray elbow to the chin, and he's trying to claim there was no concussions back in the 80s and 90s. That dead set, that would get you 6 weeks these days. But
that one's not looking so good. And yeah, I just want to call that comment again. Alan Wilson, he was so good when he
was awesome. Alan Wilson, awesome.
He was very good. Jake, just on point. All right, so that's number 5.
From what I've heard, also Jake really enjoys docking, but we won't go into that. I think it's the Jonathan variety, but I'm not too sure.
Didn't we ban in jokes on this show? All right, on to the next. In 1970, the Cronulla Sharks took on the North Sydney Bears at home. And what a moment this must have been, with the Sharks finally announcing their arrival as a force in the New South Wales Rugby League. Greg Pearce played fullback on this day with Sharks top 5 winger Bob Weir actually playing in the centres. He was a Tommy Bishop-inspired shellacking of a pretty hopeless Bears team that saw the Sharks continuing to build that squad that would challenge for the grand final in 1973. I don't know or can recall a single Bears player. I went and looked at that team. The Bears were rubbish for a whole bunch of years. And then the Bears were getting so smashed that they had 2 players sent off late in the game. Well after the Sharks fans, actually, this is the first time ever at Shark Park where a young fan, not named me, actually called out that we should sing the song now early. George Tailforth kicked 9 goals on this day. And I'm going to add this. He took the 2 early in the game because taking the 2 works. So what a moment that must have been. And if anyone is around from those times, it would be great to hear about that match. That is the first time the Sharks absolutely shellacked a team at Shark Park, and that's remained the record for another 7 or 8 years. The Sharks have a really good run against Newtown and tended to just absolutely smash them. So that is my number 4 on the list of all-time Shark Park great victories. Number 3, I'm calling out, this one's not as many points, but I'm calling it out. Sharks versus the Knights, 49-30. Billed as the Battle of the Daily M leaders. The high-flying Newcastle Knights, who went on to become premiers, visited Shark Park with Andrew Johns fuming at the time that Preston Campbell was outshining him as the halfback and sensation of the competition. What a Sharks team this was, with Peachy Rogers, Mellor, the great Paul Mellor, Adam Dyke Campbell, Bess Stevens Lang, Nick Graham, amongst a bunch of others. Knights would obviously go on to win the premiership. Sharks were blistering that day, and despite only winning by 19 points, it never really looked like a contest, with a late try or 2 and the Knights kind of staying in it. Peachy with his best on this day, blistering best, scoring a hat-trick and a whole bunch of other stuff. This was just an absolutely terrific day. And we also knew it was kind of that John Lang run, as we were the team was coming back together. We lost a bunch of matches during the year, but then we got all our troops back with Peachy coming back into the team, and Campbell switching to halfback once the Peach came back, and you just felt maybe the Sharks could make a tilt at the premiership here. It was a absolutely terrific day. It was the post-ET era. We were thinking, yeah, we're going to do this here. Any of you boys remember this one?
Yeah, for sure. It was a great game. I remember this is
Wasn't
when Preston, like you said, it was a Daily M battle. Preston ran over the top of Joey Johns. Did he get sin binned or he got
into suspension trouble after this one.
Just on the back of frustration this game, because if you have a look at the score line, like it's just Preston, which is at his magnificent magician best, just unbelievable. Great day out there. It was one of those near sellouts again when the Sharks are on fire, like you said, heading towards the semi-finals.
That is definitely true. All right, the next one is this one could have been number one, and you could argue that it should have been, right? But it's very close between this one. So we all know this one and could argue. So Sharks have been on and off all year and faced a match against top 8 rivals to make the to kind of push into the top 8. What you would call a classic 4-pointer. The Sharks named Nigel Vangenaar 5'8" for this match, which Chris Kelly and I absolutely love Vangenaar, mainly for the reason that we used to call Vangenaar pass it to Moneybags. And one of the things that used to frustrate the absolute hell out of us was that freaking Phil Bailey would never pass the ball to Moneybags Vangenaar. God, we must have just screamed that out. Fucking Phil Bailey, pass the damn ball to Vangenaar. So anyway, Shark's solution for this was naming Nigel Vangenaar at 5'8" for the first time ever. Chris Kelly and I actually had concourse seats at the end that the Sharks were scoring at, and we watched all the tries, and it was massive score at halftime. We said, you know what, we should move down the other end. And one of the all-time great decisions was us moving down the other end. Paul Mellor again featured in this team. What an absolute legend. And Cavell kicked 10 from 12. And you want to know something about this day? He also took the 2. Anything to add on that one, lads?
Oh, it was one of the greatest.
One of the greats. Franco
one of the greatest. I think it should be number one because, like I said, that was a cracker of a day. Me and you sat down there in the alcohol-free section, just watch a flurry of tries come over and couldn't believe our eyes, and then went, you know what? Let's move down the other end and try and sneak into the other bay where the CSSC sort of occupy these days, and went down there on the opposite 20-metre line and just watched all these tries pour in. They had the old clock scoreboard. We just kept watching it tick over, and the attendant had to keep coming out. Jason Stevens got over for a try, so what a great day that was. He was at the match the other day as well. And then I happened to have a printed out photograph or a large A4 photograph of David Peachy. He actually came over and signed it at full time along the fence there when the team used to actually go around and do a victory lap. So one of the great, I think it should be number one, but I'm interested to see what is number one.
I don't want to call you out because I've got nothing but spotty recollection to say this, but I'm pretty sure Noddy was goal kicking, not Cavell.
Yeah, it's true. Noddy was kicking.
Yeah, and
hold on.
No, in this one. No, Cavell was 10 from 12. I got the stat sheet in front of me.
Yeah, no.
Okay, all right. I seem to remember Noddy lining up a goal. So it's all right. That's fine. This was retro round. This was retro round, and retro round was to celebrate the decade of the 70s, and we were 68-6, and we got a penalty with a couple minutes to go, and we could have taken the 2 to score 70 points in 70s retro round.
I remember you complaining about this at the time.
And
that's unlike Stephen to complain.
We
He's doing Santa. We won 68-6. And he's still finding nothing to be angry about.
You still wanted more.
19 years later.
No. The team wanted more because they went for the try. We could have gone.
They could have gone to 74. They could have gone to 74.
No, even at 68,
they would have been terrible.
Even
70 and 70s retro round.
Even at 68-6, you're saying you should take the 2. Thank you.
Thank you in that satisfaction.
You should take the 2.
There you go.
All right, perfect. All right, well, look, number one, you have called it SJD. Number one is versus the Knights in 2002. And I think more significant as we thought at the time, this signaled the continuation of a new era, but really just amassed a bunch of problems that we didn't know that we had. We'd been pumped by the Knights earlier in the year in the Johns Bowl match, what was it, 52 points to 8, with Matty Johns out. And a friend of the show and former teammate of mine for the mighty Cronulla Seagulls 7Bs, Jai Mullane, taking his place as the Sharks number 6. He absolutely tore the premiership winning Knights to shreds. We completely outdid the match from last year. What a day out it was. Kamali, it really was Brett Kamali's day at Shark Park with him in everything, and really did put his doubters at rest. It still somewhat was a little bit bittersweet though at the time, with us thinking that, oh, geez, wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good if Preston was kind of out there? And yes, you're right, SJD. Joey was whining and carrying about the penalties, mate. We're getting flogged. Give us a break. Kamali also took the 2 in this one. And this was the match where Kamali had that kick where Peachy stole it, which was just one of the great tries, really, where he kind of, Peachy, and you hear Ray Warren calling it thief in the night. And that one was just a terrific day, that one. So I put that one ahead of the Sea Eagles just because I was a bit more pumped up for that one. Reaction, lads, is that the best ever Sharks home win?
Mate, it's right up there.
Yeah, the scores say it. You know, like, it's funny, you got two versus the Knights in there, and I know we've also had one of our record biggest win against the Knights away as well. So they're a bit of our whipping boys, but look at that. I can see a young Greg Bird, Chris McKenna.
Yeah, I thought you'd notice that.
Only one Nick Graham's flashing in that photograph. So great memories. You know, they deserved it after that 2001 loss. And then I don't want to talk about the rest of 2002.
Yeah, fair enough. Franco, anything else to add on that? Or are we going to Williams' suggestions? You guys got anything to add? Any matches to add?
Only if we can go back to the 05 versus the Sea Eagles game. I think it's worth mentioning.
He's still complaining.
No. This is I think we all agree that this was a brilliant tact where Vunganar at 5'8" didn't reappear.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Till later on in the season.
Yeah. So we're sitting there because it was like third last match or something, and you're sitting there going, why didn't they name Vunganar at 5'8" again? That's so weird. And then we played the Dragons in the finals, and Vanganar's at 5'8", and I'm like, yep, solid.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true, Franco. It's worth calling out. So our dear friend Williams, he has listed the round 18, 1996 Sharks 12, Manly 10. That red hot Manly team. He then said that we should have maybe included the Sharks 18 over the Eels 16 from 2022. Maybe he called out the round 25 2000 match, the ET Mitch Healy farewell day. He then had Sharks and Manly, and then he had the same ones as the Knights did. Yeah, pretty good list there, Williams. We do miss you on this show. All right, that was the...
Mate, I've got one for you.
Oh, yep, go.
Mate, I'm going to take you back to round 20 of the 2000 season. Sunny Sunday afternoon on the 18th of June at the then Toyota Stadium, which saw the mighty Sharks tear apart hapless St George Illawarra outfit in front of 19,000 fans, with both ET and McKenna bagging doubles. Colin Best, Paul Miller, and Matt Rogers all crossing for a try each. Rogers and Blaine Stanley shared the goal-kicking duties. I think they got 3 each. The game also had a bit of double meaning for me, given that just before full time, being the romantic bloke that I am, in the line of the canteen under the Peter Burns stand, I asked my now wife out officially. I don't know if I would have if we were getting pumped. I don't know. Who I'd picked up from her place at Menai, and after the roughly 6-hour round car trip back to God's country from the small little rural town outside of the Shire, made it down to the ground for kickoff. We got married 10 years later to the day, and here we are 24 years later with no shark-like capitulations as of yet. Touch wood, because she won't anymore.
I really hope this comment that comes through is...
Can I just say on that game as well, the reason that Rogers, I do recall, the reason that Rogers didn't kick all goals that day because he copped an absolute shot from Ainscow and ended up having the elephant strapping across the nose. So
that sounds right. Well, there's been a call for us to do that match in the Classic Cronulla Chronicles, actually. So
that like a Michael Jackson Thriller moment, Lance, where you sort of meekly said, "Hey, I was wondering, if you'd like to be my girl," or
I'd like to score one more time this evening. No.
We have got a comment through. Here we go. We've got
No, he's heard it. Oh, Jesus. I'm locking the door.
I do remember Lats telling me I asked her out officially last week.
No, I just remember him saying I wasn't going to do it if the Sharks didn't win. I was feeling confident.
Mate, you guys are stitching me up. Do you have a spare spot on your couch, Chris?
I think it needs to be read out for those Spotify listeners.
Oh, I think it does. All right. Yeah, it does. All right. So, for the Spotify listeners, good show, Franco. We've got a comment through from Casey Noble, the dear ex-wife of Scott, who said that it's nice to know that the last 24 years rests on a Sharks win, and you wonder why, lads. Oh, God bless your case. All right. Now, we've also had a recommendation. We've had a nomination for a new top 5 for us to do next week, and I can confirm that this would be a pointless exercise because, James Munro, we know that you will hold all 5 positions, you fool.
I don't reckon Munro got through most of the presentations.
I saw him get roughed up by security so many times.
I'm sure Ricky Stewart called you an F-wit too, James Munro.
I'll never forget the one where Paul Gallen was on the mic and Munro's up in the mezzanine at the Prezos and he's, hold the effing ball. And Paul Gallen just looks at him and goes, shut up, you idiot.
I'm sure he had it coming. All right, we move on. Let's. All right, cool. All right. Well, look, let's go. Oh, whoops. We've got to go.
I'll do a quick round of league roundup.
Yeah, we've got to do the league roundup. Goodness, this show's going for ages. We'll just do stuff happening.
We'll just do a quick one.
Do a quick league roundup. What do we need to know that's happening around the league, Chris?
Well, obviously we dominated the news today, unfortunately, or in both cases with FInucane retiring. Obviously, we touched on Braden Trindle having a bit of a stand-down moment. The other news out of it is Kalen Ponga's obviously out injured for quite a significant amount of time. It started with a hip flexor and it turned into a LaFranchi injury of his foot. So he's going to possibly require surgery. Maybe something we can touch on.
Those LaFranchi injuries, those are bad.
Yeah, maybe we can touch on Francis, how they go and how they're repaired at some stage. But also out of that, Nathan Cleary returns from his hamstring injury this week against the hapless, who they got this week? The Panthers. They're playing someone terrible as well. Everyone get your tips in this week because it's quite an easy one. They're playing the Cowboys, who we just flogged. So the Penrith machine keeps rolling and Cleary comes back into that team. We also got Adam Reynolds and Payne Haas back for the Broncos. And the most interesting suspension out of this week was Jack Hetherington from the Knights, who decided the on-field stoush and back and forth wasn't enough from the sin bin and tried to have a little brouhaha and faced up to Reed Marnie in the tunnel. So he got a 1-game suspension out of that. So interesting times. And, yeah, very random. So
he looked like he was half taking the piss. I didn't know.
Yeah, he sort of did. He sort of lined him up and sort of had a joke around. Reed Marnie wasn't even looking at him and he just sort of struck out and everyone was like, what's going on? So he's got a 1-game suspension out of contrary conduct out of that. So other than that, it's all systems go. Big couple of games, 3 games on Thursday. We were just talking about with the boys earlier, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 7:50 on a Thursday. So it would be Super Thursday this week. So we'll see how Anzac Day goes. So Jake just come on. He should have punched him on the field and made the suspension worth it. Yeah, that's the take out of everyone else. Instead of just grabbing jerseys. But as I've sort of noticed over the season, Reed Marnie's really in the thick of it. Probably the shortest guy out there. I know he had a couple of back and forths with Brayley when we played him. He's had a few this year, so maybe Hetherington should have just landed one and sorted it out from there. But that's our league quick roundup because we are springing into overtime.
We are, all right. We're expecting to make a big deal of this Sharks trivia thing. So for those that don't know, we do a little bit of trivia on the ET stand in honour of our Mr. Failure himself on hard quiz, Matt Williams. But he is our undisputed heavyweight champion of trivia. So we're going to try and find a new champion. And I had a really good set of trivia questions lined up for this week. I've had to abandon them because of Dale FInucane. Oh, bloody Dale. So, all right. We've got out. I had a whole bloody visuals and graphics and all sorts of stuff drawn up. So instead, we're going cheap trivia to determine who is the number one contender for the ET Stand trivia title. It is Dale Finucane themed. It is heads or tails. Heads for if you think it's Finucane. Boobs, I guess, if you think it's the other option. I suspect you guys are going to do pretty well at this because you guys are pretty good. So,
have you watched us do trivia before?
Yeah, I think you'll do all right at this. And in the event of a tie, then all three of you or two of you will just challenge Williams, and it'll be a three-way, which is apparently Latz's favourite type of way. Okay. Anyway, all right. Question number one: who debuted first, Dale Finucane or Cameron McInnes?
What's heads? What's tails?
Heads is Finucane.
Yeah,
heads and Dales.
Head no.
Yeah.
All right, that's correct. Dale Finucane did debut first. McInnes was injured in round one of 2022. Question number two: true or false? True being heads. Has Dale Finucane ever kicked a goal in the NRL? True, he has. False, he hasn't. He has kicked one. Latz, sorry, mate.
Melbourne.
Yeah, for Melbourne. True or false? Finucane was the starting lock for the Storm in the 2016 Grand Final. He was the starting lock. There you go. 3 for Franco, 3 for Kelly, 2 for Latz. I have a feeling you guys are going to know this one. True or false? Finucane never scored a try for the Sharks. Well, we know that one's true because Franco said it at the start.
I was getting worried for Latz then.
True or false? Finucane is Shark number 549. Latz is back in it. It's true.
Yes.
I even said it at the start of the show.
I read it. I read it earlier today.
At the start of the show. All right. True or false? Finucane played 6 State of Origin games. All right. The answer is he played 5. So you all are on equal number of points. Do you want to all challenge Williams, or do you want me to go to my other category, which was Sharks players have only played 1 match?
Let's challenge Williams. He's been out of the game. He's been out of the game. Let's take him on.
All right. So all 3 are going to challenge Williams next week. Well done, fellas. That's pretty good. What a comeback. I tell you what, those Sharks numbers.
I haven't put the disco lights on for that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the Sharks numbers.
I thought they were the cops outside your window, mate.
On Wikipedia, Finucane is listed as Shark 550, but on Bears Attested announced him as Shark 549. So there's someone out there. There's someone out there claiming to be a Sharks player who isn't.
And then Franco will have a recount then.
Yeah, Stone Street might not be 560.
Maybe Stone Street isn't 560. Yeah, this is probably true. And you're right, SJD. Fifita did smash through a hapless Finucane to achieve immortality. And yeah, Jake, let's hope they don't get the tattoo wrong. But yeah, he's officially number 549. All right, well, that was this week's show. Normally we might say, did we miss anything? We've gone a little bit over time this week. Franco, have we missed anything this week that you want us to mention?
I'd just like to, again, as I've sort of said there in my tagline, thanks Rambo, Dale Finucane for doing his all for the club right up until the end, even announcing his retirement on a day that we had some bad news to smoke that one out of the media.
Yeah, fair enough. That's Chris. Anything extra from you fellas? I think we've talked enough.
I think we've covered it all, mate.
I think we have covered it all. As the Sharks, hold on, we'll hit the music. There we go. Let's just go do that. There we go. As the Sharks marching on to the Sunday clash, table.
We can't hear.
Cut the music.
What do you mean you can't? Oh yeah, right.
Cut your mic out.
Yeah, I kind of turns it up. Yeah, it's kind of in the background. Well, we should sing the song.
Cheap American knockoffs.
Yeah, this is the problem with me not having the proper microphone and that sort of stuff. But never mind. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening and being part of the show. We will have an episode of the debrief following the Canberra Raiders match. And then if you haven't heard this week's Classic Cronulla Chronicle, I believe it's you, Franco, this week, talking about Sharks and Raiders from 2009 and foolishly believing that we might have a season back on the cards after a... It's funny how that Classic Cronulla Chronicles, we never seem to lose in those videos that we do. It's like we seem to win every single time. But anyway, thanks for watching and listening, and please do hit the like and subscribe button, as that helps us with the algorithm. Up Cronulla. We'll see you guys next time. Come on.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.